I'm so glad I get to be with you again. It is always such a pleasure and a treat to get to come and see so many what are becoming very familiar faces. And so thank you for having me. Today we are going to continue our time in the series looking at the Psalms and meeting God in the Psalms. And today we're going to talk about meeting God in waiting, which I don't think most of us like to do. We're going to talk through Psalm 62. And first, I would like to just throw it up on the screen, and we're going to read it all together, out loud. I know, this is risky. Okay? Ready. For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. How long will all of you attack a man to batter him? Like a leaning wall, a tottering fence, they only plan to thrust him down from his high position. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God, oh, no, I missed it. You guys keep going. I'll follow you. Silence. Hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory, my mighty rock, my refuge is God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Selah. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances, they go up. They are together, lighter than a breath. Put no trust in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart on them. Once God has spoken, twice I have heard this, that power belongs to God, and that to you, O Lord, belongs steadfast love. For you will render a man according to his work. Thank you. So today we're going to kind of sit with the refrain, which it is located in verses 1 and 2 and in verses 5 and 6. And this psalm is structured with this refrain, for God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. And what's interesting about this psalm is there are a lot of psalms where David starts out with his complaints or his concerns, and then he moves into this place of resting and trust on God. And what's interesting about this one is he begins with the assertion that he can trust God, and then kind of moves into his concerns, and then moves back into this assertion and moves back into his concerns. And I think that we can relate, right? Like our situation. If you've ever waited at the doctor's office, right? You look around, if you even look up from your phone, and you see everyone else is on their phones. Waiting forces us to be in the present and in the not yet. We are stuck in anticipation. And it's an anticipation that we can't resolve for ourselves. Waiting has this way of dragging out of us what's been lurking there all along. In waiting, we see our impatience, we see our urgency, we see our demands rush up to the surface. And so we quell them by either moving on to something else or keeping ourselves entertained. Because waiting forces us to face our own powerlessness. It forces us to face our limitedness, and it forces us to face our vulnerability. But the powerlessness that comes with waiting on God drops us into a right and appropriate kind of powerlessness. It's that He is God and that we're not. It shifts our focus, and this work shifts our focus from like, I have to have this thing right now, into this mentality that we can see God for who He is and ourselves for who we are. Waiting on God is sacred work. Now let's briefly talk about prayer. Now there are two main kinds of prayer. There's cataphatic and there's apophatic. Cataphatic prayer is the kind that uses words, images, concepts to connect with God. Right? This is kind of how we typically, especially early on in your faith journey, a lot of times that's how we talk about how we interact with God. But there's this other kind of prayer that's called apophatic. Apophatic prayer is praying with your attention. It's praying with presence. And waiting on God is a kind of apophatic prayer. Now, most of us want our prayers to work, right? The prayer of waiting on God is not about accomplishment. Waiting can feel really unproductive. And for those of us who might be concerned with productivity, this kind of prayer might seem like the kind of prayer where nothing happens. Because it's a prayer of presence, because it's a prayer which is rooted in being and not doing. And maybe it's less about what we're waiting for and more about how we are waiting, about what comes up for us when we have to wait on God. Now, waiting is productive in that the frustration and the internal response we have is fodder for prayer. It's grist for the mill. It's an invitation to a different kind of conversation with God. We're encouraged to wait in hope. Waiting is filled with anticipation. Psalm 27:18, "O tarry and await the Lord's pleasure. Be strong, and He shall comfort your heart. Wait patiently for the Lord." Our waiting will be rewarded. We shall be comforted. Psalm 134-6, "I wait for the Lord, my soul waits for Him more than the watchman for the morning." We are invited to wait for God with anticipation, with full concentration and attention. And waiting can be hard, and waiting on God can sometimes feel pointless. But our waiting does not go unnoticed by God. So the psalmist says that he waits, but how does he say he waits? He says he waits in silence. Think for a moment the last time you actually experienced silence. I'm going to pause for 5 seconds. And I want us to get really quiet. And let's see what we still hear. Okay, what did you hear? The air conditioner, yes. The children, right? Even when we try to get quiet, it's hard. There's still sounds, right? So silence is pretty hard to find, and waiting on God in silence demands our attention. It actually attunes our awareness to the subtle and the small things, right? Like normally you're not going to hear the air conditioner going because it's just background noise, but when we get quiet, we suddenly can hear the air conditioner. We can hear the faint sounds of kids having the time of their lives. But waiting on God demands our attention, and we start to hear these small things. In the story of Elijah, silence is linked to going away and encountering God. Elijah climbs Mount Horeb, where he's told that the Lord is going to pass by. And so he's like, okay. And he goes up there, and then there are these displays of natural phenomenon, right? There's wind, there's earthquake, there's fire. And then comes the sound of silence. And it's in the silence that God reveals himself. When we wait on God in silence, God reveals himself. And it may not be in the ways that you thought he would reveal himself. But one of the biggest hurdles to silence is actually me. It's actually you. Because there are two kinds of silence, two kinds of quiet. There's external and there's internal. External quiet is the cessation of audible sound. So it's our sensory. And then internal quiet is the quieting of our internal noise, which I would venture to say that when it gets quiet externally, that is the very moment that our internal noise turns up the volume to 11, right? We are attuned to the outside, and then when we get quiet, we then can hear what's still going on the inside. Even when I can get away from the external noise, I then have to confront my own internal noise. Waiting on God in silence, it exposes us. Writing about deep inner silence, Evagrius Ponticus, a monk from the 4th century Egyptian desert, says that the mind must become naked. Imagine that you're wearing layers and layers of clothes. Silence slowly strips away the ways that we attempt to conceal ourselves, the ways that we avoid encountering our shame and guilt. Silence purges the heart of pretense, and we strip back the layers one by one. But the God that we wait for in the quiet is the one to whom all hearts are open. All desires are known. All is laid bare. And from whom, no secrets are hidden. You can't surprise God. Concealment is not possible. And I wonder if that's why we avoid the silence. Maybe we're scared of what we're going to encounter when it gets quiet. And it's easier to keep ourselves afloat with busyness or external noise rather than having to face what's going on within us. What comes up for you in silence, all the things that you might try and tamp down, the things that you think you're hiding if you don't see them or keep busy, God sees them all. He knows them fully. They're not hidden to him. What if those are the very things and the very places that God longs to be near you in? The very places God's like, yes, let's have that conversation. Or maybe silence feels lonely. Maybe it pulls up this fear in you that what if he doesn't come? What if he doesn't want to be near me? Even when God feels distant and we feel lonely and abandoned, we are waiting dead center in the context of God's love. His love for us hasn't changed. In the midst of our questions and grumblings, God is fully present to you. He hasn't gone anywhere. Our felt experience of God might vacillate, right? It might change. Sometimes we feel like God is really present to us and we can feel him near. And then there are other times, other seasons of life where God feels far. But even now, each and every inhale and each and every exhale is steeped in God's presence. You're right in it, all the time. I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to throw these questions up on the screen. We don't have time to explore them fully right now, but I invite you to take a picture. If you want to continue having a conversation with God about what happens in you in the quiet, where do you go, what kind of conversation do you need to have with God, take a picture and just sit. Take some time this week and just sit and ask God, God, is there a conversation I'm avoiding by staying busy? Is there a conversation I'm avoiding by continuing all the noise in my life? So, in this psalm, the psalmist is in the middle of quietly waiting for God to be his refuge. He's longing for safety. He calls God his fortress, his refuge. And unfortunately, in a fallen world, part of being human is feeling not safe. Ideally, at one time, each of us experienced perfect safety and security in the womb. We were cushioned, we were gently carried. It was always the right temperature, we were perfectly fed. It's really important for a child's development to feel safe and secure. It actually impedes a child's development if they don't feel safe. And from the beginning, how do we learn about being human and about God? It's from the people that took care of us. Even imperfect parents, which is all parents are imperfect, show us something about God's perfect love. And maybe you can't recall that kind of experience. Maybe it's really hard for you to recall being cared for and having your needs anticipated by a loving parent. But maybe you can imagine what that might be like. Maybe you can imagine what it might be like to be safely and tenderly held. We all long for that first safe home. We all long for that. On some level, we all long to go back to the place where we are gently cushioned and carried and held and cherished. But we lose that feeling so quickly. And so from being very young, we adjust to feeling not safe in this world, and then we build bunkers, literal and figurative bunkers, to keep ourselves safe. These are strategies, these are ways to keep ourselves safe, either physically or emotionally or relationally. We create illusions of safety. Now, some of us might have physical security systems. Some of us might learn self-defense. Others might have big fences to keep danger away. I do too. We all do. I want to tell you about a time where I thought I had a plan to keep myself safe. Now, when I was in the 4th grade, I would come home every day and I would pop in sweating to the oldies. Does anybody remember sweating to the oldies? No? Yes. For the uninitiated, for you, if you don't know, sweating to the oldies is like aerobics dance VHS. It was on VHS. If it was on DVD, it's not right. It just doesn't feel right. You have to rewind it. But I would like go home and I would do this dance and loved it. I still sometimes think I'm some sort of like jazzercise sleeper cell that's like waiting to be unlocked by like on Broadway or It's My Party, because it's like, no, anybody, nobody, I'm alone. But I would come home I would do Swen to the Oldies, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And after the strenuous exercise class, I would plop down on the couch for my daily dose of nightmare fuel, which was Unsolved Mysteries, right? Where are my Unsolved Mysteries fans? Are you okay? And what is your favorite true crime podcast? I know you have one, and if you don't. Okay, so I would like sit down. So if you don't know what Unsolved Mysteries is, Unsolved Mysteries was a TV show that, for me, it was on Channel 23, and it focused on like things that didn't have an explanation. So it could be a crime, it could be a missing person, it could be a paranormal phenomenon, and for whatever reason, I don't know why I chose to tell the story. For whatever reason, the one that really got me was alien abductions. I spent an entire year of my fourth grade, I was like 10, terrified that I was going to be abducted by aliens. And so I figured that the prime time they were gonna come and get me was when I was home alone. So I found a way to make myself feel safe. I would vigilantly scan out the windows looking for UFOs, right? And I avoided being home alone at all costs because I needed safety from the aliens. And I figured if I make my own safety plan, then I'm gonna be okay. They're not gonna get me. And really, I'm gonna be honest, it worked. I didn't have yet to be abducted. So it kept me from being abducted, but logically I knew, even in 4th grade, I knew that if the aliens had deemed me the prime person they wanted to get to know, the prime example of human life, me being at Long's drugstore with my mom wasn't going to prevent me from being abducted, right? We've all seen Men in Black. We know what's really happening. But my plan to keep myself safe helped me it helped me put my mind slightly at ease, but it really didn't do much for this greater existential threat, of insecurity, which haunts all of us. We all build these defense systems to protect ourselves from the anxiety of a hostile world. You may not fear alien abduction. Maybe you do. But maybe you fear being seen as incompetent. Maybe you fear being seen as a failure. Maybe you fear depending on other people. Or maybe you fear being abandoned and not finding help when you need it. Maybe you use your money or your job, your appearance or your accomplishments to insulate yourself from what you fear. Maybe you make foresight your obsession. If I can just see it coming, I can be prepared. Or maybe if I do everything perfectly, they won't leave. I won't be alone. We get our teeth cleaned, we eat healthy, we work out religiously, all to stave off the threat of entropy, that one day we might experience harm or pain. But none of these things, I'm going to be honest, brushing your teeth is a great life choice. None of these things are bad, right? But some of them are very prudent and wise and highly encouraged. Brush your teeth. But while doing these things, it's important to ask ourselves, what's going on underneath? What am I avoiding? Am I afraid of something? And how is that making me create plans to keep myself safe? What am I protecting myself from feeling? It's hard to accept that all of our attempts to create safety for ourselves are illusory. They are mere illusions we create to help ourselves feel safe. Now, I know that no one came to church today looking for an existential crisis. I recognize that's not necessarily what you signed up for. But it can be easy to lull ourselves into a sense of security, that we're the ones that keep ourselves safe, but in reality, we are all deeply vulnerable. It's out of an awareness and an acknowledgement of that vulnerability that the psalmist tells us that God is our stronghold, that God is our refuge, that he is the place that we can hold on to. He is our fortified shelter. And it's because God is our stronghold that we will not be greatly shaken. He says, the first time he says greatly shaken, we will be shaken. That is just part of being human. We are not promised that life is going to be easy. We're promised that we will experience hard things and that God will be our stronghold. Julian of Norwich says, he did not say, you will not be troubled, you will not be belabored, you will not be disquieted, but he said you will not be overcome. We are promised safety with God. We are safe because the relationship is intimate and loving. Verse 8 says, pour out your heart before him. The relationship between you and God is safe enough to contain all the parts of your heart, all the things that come up in waiting, all the things that come up in you having been shaken. All, not just the prepackaged, the good, the bad, the ugly, the messy. If you are trying to be good in prayer, you're doing it wrong. Prayer is not the place to be good. Prayer is the place to be honest. Prayer is not the place to be good. Prayer is the place to be honest. God gives us the safety to be completely open. What if God is big and strong enough to hold on to in the storms of life, and big and strong enough to contain the storms that go on within us? God is big enough to contain us. Nothing you can do can change God's love and delight for you. Nothing. And sometimes the things that come out of us are shocking. They're surprising. They're disturbing. They're distressing. God is big enough, God is safe enough to stay close to you and intimate with you, no matter what's going on in your life and no matter what's coming out of you as a result. The psalmist invites us to dump our hearts out completely. Pour out your heart before God. Not bit by bit, but completely. The passage is reminiscent of Psalm 131:3, which states, "But I still my soul and I make it quiet. Like a child upon its mother's breast, my soul is quieted within me." Some translations say like an infant, but really this passage refers to, think of more of like a toddler, right? Toddlers are energetic, stubborn, wild little people. We had a toddler at our house last week, and they vacillated from giggling to crying to raging to joyously being chased, running butt naked, holding their diaper. Like, toddlers are almost feral. Like, that's just what toddlers do. And when they feel safe, they nestle in like little bunnies, right? Like, and I can't help but wonder if this is how God invites us to be. Fully honest, unrestrained, maybe even downright feral in relationship with him. And fully safe and secure enough to rest. He can be with us no matter what we're feeling, no matter what we're going through. He delights in being near you no matter what. He delights in being near you no matter what's happening to you, no matter what's happening within you, and no matter what's coming out of you, which waiting drags up all of that. But you are safe with him. I'm now going to invite us into a time of reflection. If you feel comfortable, I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I want you to try and remember yourself as a small child. And if you can't, that's okay. Use your imagination. Then recall the invitation to nestle in close to God's spacious lap. While you're there, pour out your heart to Him. What do you want to say? What have you been afraid to say? What do you yearn to let go of? Or what secret joy do you want to share? Remember, prayer is your safe place. For a little while, become a heedless toddler in your Father's lap. God, you can hold it all. You can be near us, no matter what's going on around us, no matter what's going on within us. You can be, even when you feel far, you are near. Would you continue to anchor our attachment to you? Would we trust that you can hold us? Amen. All right, we're going to transition into a time of worship. I hope today was the beginning of a conversation with you and God. At the back, during worship at the back, there's communion if you feel like that's a meaningful part of your engagement with God today. Thank you so much.